Good afternoon, yogis. Always smile because and at the studio they record the videos in the summertime. Oftentimes you see the teacher's tummy because we're standing there in front of the camera. Can't actually say for all teachers, but for a lot of the female teachers, they wear these crop tops. And so the first thing as they're bending over looking at the video, their belly shows. So you just see this belly. And I was downloading some of the videos to put up, and almost I learned whose belly button was belonged to each teacher. It was quite funny. Anyway, let's start with three prostrations where we prostrate to the teacher and the teachings that have been shared with each teacher down the line since Shakyamuni and Buddha. What a speech. Okay. And as we're on class 7, it is a good chance to say the prayers in Tibetan. So I know you might not have your sheet right in front of you. So I will put it to the screen. Hey, Alice. Nice to see you.
Hi.
How is how, I know last time we talked, you had got your appointment.
Yeah, I'm getting surgery in 2 weeks. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
How's the pain been since?
It's better. It's just like my knee has like a weird angle all the time, so I can't
Okay.
walk.
Have you been walking with your crutches?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, only with the crutches, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I can walk like without, but I'm just like limping a lot.
Yeah, you don't want to put pressure on it to make it any
Yeah.
worse, right?
No, I mean the pressure is fine. It's just like I can't straight my knee.
Oh,
It's
okay,
always
okay,
like
okay.
bended.
Oh, so it's always bent and it doesn't
Yeah.
straighten. And if you put
No,
weight on it, it doesn't hurt or anything.
not much. No, no.
That's good. Okay. So you've been able to sleep well and
Kinda.
it's painful when you're sleeping.
Yeah, because I like to sleep on the side, so if I put the other leg on top, it's kind of painful. So I always
Yeah.
try to find like different position, and yeah,
Oh, shucks. Okay.
yeah.
Thanks. Well, how about mood wise? How have you been feeling the last 2 weeks?
Uh, I'm okay. I was a bit worried like till a few days ago, but now I feel a bit better.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Because that's, I mean, you're pretty active, and then suddenly, since then, it's like no activity, right?
yeah,
And that can definitely affect how you feel,
yeah,
as well as the pain and not sleeping so well. And so,
yeah. I was
oh,
more concerned about surgery than that.
okay, good, all right.
Yeah, I've
So
never had like a surgery before. That's also why.
I know I definitely can attest because I think my surgery for my hernia was in March, and yeah, I just I don't are you're going to be anesthetized, like they're going to put you to
Yeah,
sleep?
yeah. It's
Oh,
like yeah,
okay, that sounds good because mine was there was this option to I didn't even know until I went in, and then the hernia is kind of around my groin, right? and
Mm.
I thought I was going to be put out. But then I get there, and they said, "Oh, you know, it's so great." Like the nurse came up to me and said, "Oh, so great, you're going to be able to be awake." I'm like, "Oh no, I don't want to see it. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
I want to be kind of knocked out." Uh, because I actually have it, like I get really kind of just, you know, I had that reaction where not just blood, like a bleeding nose. I don't feel gross, but I've cut my lip before, and I saw like a bit of skin hanging down, and it gives me like
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
worst EBGBs ever. Like
Yeah.
really, just like I like it's. Ugh.
Yeah.
I couldn't even like like look at my own like this piece of skin coming out. So yeah, I did, obviously I wouldn't look, but just to have to kind of,
Yeah.
just imagine it as they're doing it. Or if they would talk to me, I would just, so I'm so glad they gassed me up. And yeah, so I don't know if that's your fear, but that definitely would have been really bad karma that I had to be awake. I'm so glad I was out. And
Yeah.
yeah, though it took longer because then I had to come out of that, and so you'll have the same, and then you kind of like are a bit groggy, and I think one of the side symptoms was constipation, which was
Oh,
I
wow. Okay.
I don't know, maybe for the knee it won't be, but it maybe was around the groin, and it just was. I never had been constipated before, but it was like wow, holy
Mhm.
crap! It was so painful. I did have to go after the second night to the hospital, to the pharmacy to get something, stool softener. I'm like, oh, I have no problems. I'm like in and out. I don't need a book. I'm just like, but it was just like, oof, like,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah,
Yeah. I'm,
just,
I'm more scared about like uh the dosage of the drugs because I'm really sensitive. So I just
mm,
need like a little bit that I get really, really high.
oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, if
And
you're
I
going to be
don't.
out, then you shouldn't feel anything.
No, I
And
know, but like I feel like also when you go under general anesthesia, they give you way too many drugs that you're supposed to.
yeah, yeah, they did seem to kind of, yeah.
Yeah, like because I'm from Italy, so like in Italy it's a bit different. Like
Okay.
they go a little bit like lighter.
Yeah, I would say I remember my dentist back in Toronto, he wouldn't even give us anything for cavities. And then when I came here, they kind of like, oh, and then they tested, are you okay? And I was like, oh, it's just a cavity. But
Yeah,
they really like tried to make sure I wouldn't feel anything, which is then is
yeah,
dangerous because you might bite yourself, right?
yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah.
um, yeah, anyways,
Mm.
but yeah, no, just whatever if there's anything I was preparing for this class, I'm like, yeah, just feel what you feel. And, there's no, you should or shouldn't. It's, if you believe in karma, it's kind of like whatever comes up, your fears or everything ends up okay. It's just, that's what it's going to be.
Yeah.
And, but definitely our mind does let us know what to worry about. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's good to kind of then just go there so that yeah, um, imagining the fear in the worst case, as I would say, helps. Yes.
Hmm.
So I just done the three prostration. I don't know if you have your binder in front of you.
Yes.
Okay, I'm still going to share this just for those who are watching, because I was saying we were going to do the Tibetan this class.
Mhm.
So we're doing this offering the mandala, and I'm kind of making sure, yeah, I think they can see it there. Yep, starts with Sakshi.
Which
Okay.
page is it?
This one is like the very first page. Like it doesn't even have a number. It should be like kind of like if
Oh,
it's not on the front of the binder, just keep flipping. It should be in the first couple if I didn't put it there. Oh, maybe you know what? It's on the really front of the binder, I think. Or the
does
back
it
of the
say like
binder.
which reading is it?
It's not like, I mean, these prayer sheets are kind of connected
Oh, yeah, yeah,
to,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
found it.
You see that one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Offering the mandala. So, yeah, this one you can just kind of read along the English if you want, or just kind of join. Goes Sashi, Puki, Jukshin, Meitok, Tron, Biram, Lingshi, Yende, Genpa, Di, Sangye, Shindu, Mite, Uwar, Gi, Drokun, Namdak, Shingla, Drupar, Sho, Idam Guru Ratnam Malakam Niratayami. And then the next one is the refuge and the wish. It should be on the back of it.
Hmm.
So that one starts with Sangye, and that one we're supposed to repeat 3 times. So if you're joining, kind of let me say the word Sangye, and then you kind of join in. Mhm. Sangye Chudang Soki Choknam La Jiangsu Pardu Dakni Kyapsu Chi Dakni Jinyin Gipe Sunam Ki Drola Penchir Sangye Jupar Sho Sangye Chudang Soki Choknam La Jiangsu Pardu Dakni Kyapsu Chi Dakni Jinyin Gipe Sunam Ki Drola Penchir Sangye Jupar Sho Sangye Chudang Soki Choknam La Jiangsu Pardu Dakni Kyapsu Chi Dakni Jinyin Gipe Sunam Ki Drola Penchir Sangye Dupar Sho. Okay, so that is our opening prayers to set our intention that we are doing this towards our enlightenment to help all other beings. And so I guess I will just start, since it has been 2 weeks, with just kind of a little. We did like 2 weeks ago, we did that meditation. I'm going to do a different meditation to start, but um, if I say the 4 principles of karma, kind of like the laws of karma, does any of them stand out, stick out, or you remember, Alice?
Oh, we did it like 2 weeks ago, right?
Not kind of like the ways to purify, there's also 4 of those, but just kind of in general, like what if someone said, hey, okay, karma is karma, like, I mean, are there anything specific about karma that you remember?
Like that what you did in your past life is kind of like recreating to getting back to you in your present life.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, one of the, I guess, that definitely is one that anything you do, karma would be, they'll say, any movement of the mind. So even if you're thinking about something, um, you know, definitely saying something and doing something is karma. And so any karma that we do can kind of ripen in this lifetime or in the next lifetime or in any other future lifetime. So it can come at different times. And that's I guess, is it the mysterious thing about karma. Though that point is easy, it's kind of like you just never know when something might ripen. They talk about a seed, that you plant in. Um, and the great example is like you look at a tree, if there's a tree around you, you know, the biggest tree came from the tiniest seed. So I guess one of the kind of the main 4 principles is that karma grows. Um, one of them is that karma is definite, and that in terms of that, a good um, thought speech or action will lead to something good, and that a bad thought, um, speech or action will lead to a bad result. And that is really good to remember because, I've been sharing with you, kind of how I've had to experience the karma of being yelled at. And it was just, I might share the story later, but it was something that might agree that gave me reason to really yell at this person, get really upset at them earlier this week. And it was great because at the moment I could see myself kind of like wanting to like really give it to the person. I was like, oh, Hogan, don't do it, don't do it. And I didn't yell at them. I was upset and I kind of, you don't want to feel upset. Like a lot of times don't want to feel upset, so we kind of like mask it with anger. That's what I was like, no, I don't want to. And so I was really proud of myself to not react in anger. Um, and so, yeah, this is a good, I guess the example always sticks to my mind is that if you do something bad, like you steal or you lie to try to get something and you actually get that thing, it's not because of your, misdeed. It's actually was like karma ripening for you to get the money or whatever you wanted came from a past good deed, and that your action, which wasn't so good that you did do, is actually going to lead to a not so good karma unless you purify it, which is I think what we were talking about last week or 2 weeks ago. Kind of the four ways to purify it is to, first of all, I mean, you wouldn't even think of purifying if you didn't remember that karma and emptiness exist, right? That's kind of the first thing to think about. And the second one is to just have, so they call intelligent regret, not to feel guilty, but just to go, okay, you know what I did, if I'd yelled at this person, um, or even thought in my mind, like you stupid person, or whatever, would come back to me. And that the third one is, to set in your mind uh, when you might not do this. And so, actually, I will say last night I did kind of get a little upset at my wife in the evening. And as I was doing my meditation and kind of running through, it was like, what would did I do something that I regretted? And that was definitely one of them. And so I did my thought that, okay, today, no matter what, I'm not gonna, be angry at her. And that's kind of like my um, setting how long you're going to refrain from doing it. And then the fourth thing would be doing an antidote, which can be chanting and can be, they say, I haven't done it, but what I've usually done is meditate on emptiness, which is what actually I was going to start this meditation with. But before we did, I thought I would just kind of reflect on the 10 misdeeds we did at the end of class, and I had sent it in the email. I'm not sure if you still have it. I only sent it as an email, but I was going to ask Alice if any of those on that sheet, any of them get any questions about or anything seemed a bit odd. So if you can maybe see it on here, I think I have them. Is it hard to
Yeah,
read?
I received it in an
Yeah, yeah.
email.
hmm Did
Yeah.
any of them seem like when you read them, maybe like just kind of overall, the 10 of them, did any of them kind of surprise you as maybe the 10 most common ones? Or
No, I feel like we also talked about it last time, right?
hmm
Kind of like it made sense.
Yeah, yeah, they do. Like that uh one of the results is that it might happen to you, obviously. Another is that if you do this often, you might actually have this habit in your next lifetime to do the same. And then there's these corresponding results, which some of them I think, it makes sense. Like if you kill, you'd have a short life. Um, always sick, I don't think is maybe one you everyone would kind of guess, but it could be. And then like the third column was like, showing what would happen in your environment around you. Um, so I know when I first saw these, like the killing, the stealing, the sexual misconduct, I was like, yeah, I definitely remember those in the Ten Commandments. What I wanted to review was just that they kind of grouped them, the first three, as misdeeds in action, right? Those are things that you would do. Um, and then the next four are actually misdeeds from your speech. So if you take a look, it's like
Oh yeah,
lying. Yep,
yeah.
yep. It's a divisive speech, uh, includes
Harsh words.
gossiping, like talking about, doing things, saying things that make others not like someone else,
Mhm.
harsh words, which is
Mhm.
what I think I was guilty of more yesterday, wasn't I? I was angry at her. I was like, I said it harshly. And the one of the corresponding is just things is things sound horrible around you. And the example might be, yeah, maybe you hear, everyone might hear a fire engine or something, but some people really don't like it. Or some people might hear like the sky train pass by, and they really don't like it. I was in their meditation retreat, and I know my teacher really doesn't like hearing like the dishwasher. And it was a really quiet, silent one. It had like a nice little hum, but he really doesn't like it. So he would kind of tell us to not turn it on when we're meditating. So, yep, these four busy talk are misdeeds from speech. And then the last three, coveting, ill will, and wrong view, are kind of misdeeds in your thoughts. So that is what and I'm not sure which, there's another course later which will share some other ones. And I remember one of the homeworks was kind of like putting an arrow to what this misdeed will lead to what, because some of them, they're just not exactly exactly the opposite is the ones which make sense, but there's some uh, interesting ones. Like, for example, they'll say, um, if you go bald, it means you were very vain in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or, and this one applied to me. I didn't think I looked good before, and I was young, and I was like, they actually say if you don't feel you do, it's because you were really angry before,
Hmm.
which I don't know. You wouldn't, yeah, you might not associate. So there's these other, results for things that may have had that are not so intuitive. Um, so, and some of these are like, when they're talking about, um, like if you are harsh words, in the environment, that it's hard to find nice places. I don't know. Yeah. I just noticed that when I was memorizing these, is this was definitely part of the test. Some are really easy for me to remember, and then others I'd have to kind of write out quite a few times to kind of remember. So anyway, but yeah, these are the 10 most common misdeeds. So yeah, let me start with meditation on emptiness, which, if you had anything that you're needing an antidote for, you can, anything you might not have, might consider misdeed today or the past little bit, you could bring it to mind as we do this one, and this could be like an antidote for that misdeed. Um, so yeah, come into a comfortable position, close your eyes, take a few releasing breaths, or just breathe in through your nose, let out through your mouth. Any sound you like, as loud or as soft as you like. And to know with this meditation, it's a little guided one. So usually you won't have as much time for your mind to wander because I'll say something to bring you back. But it's a good thought. It's worth mentioning because you may meditate on your own um, in silence. Most of us do. And that it is an exercise, as my teacher said on the first day, which I was so happy to hear, that it's that it is an exercise in failure. That you can be meditating as he has, as I feel I have for a long time, and still feel like an absolute beginner. Yeah, you will have certain times and periods where you can focus on what you want to focus on, but more times than not, as we live in a busy city, many things going on, that you'll find it very difficult to keep your focus. Yet, though that is also part of the intention of meditation, as you can also consider that a way to, as they say with karma, that you're purifying bad karma. Whenever you're experiencing something not such a good result, something you don't like, that is what you're doing, burning it off and getting rid of it. And so, definitely with meditating, even if it's for a short time, or definitely when you're doing a longer one, um, to accept that, as it happens a lot. But this meditation, I am going to have you think of someone you like, someone, I'd say maybe not someone famous that you don't know, but someone that you have warm feelings towards. So just see them sitting in front of you now as you're sitting, imagining them just suddenly walking in, having a seat in front of you, probably with a little smile on their face. That's surprising you, and seeing the reaction on your face as you see them, as they're definitely happy to see you and you happy to see them. Some people in their visualization can visualize very clearly, and if you cannot, some people cannot, just feel that if you can you see their face? See what their hair looks like, or maybe they're wearing something today on their head. What's unique about their face? Their eyes, is it? Nose, mouth, ears, something they're wearing, they like to often wear. maybe that's not as important as how they make you feel. So just check in. Maybe don't look at them, close your eyes, and see if you can pick three words to describe what do they make you feel. Feel it now. Just bring a little smile to your face, warmth in your heart. And you probably can say and agree uh, whatever is the strongest quality, or maybe there's two that you're tied with, and it really feels like it's coming from them. And no doubt for you that, yeah, they are like this. And they make you feel like this. Even if they're in a bad mood, most times, not all the time. Now, if you can think of a friend of yours or a family member who doesn't know them, and they come into the room, do you think they'd see this quality in them? This person doesn't know them. They're not speaking to them. They're just seeing you there, and they're just joining you in this seated position. You might say they do, but if I have you imagine another stranger coming into the room and sitting down, could you imagine a stranger who would not see this quality in them, who based on their first impression might not see what you find so special about them? It's just a good reminder that this quality that you see in them might not be just exuding from them. Otherwise, a stranger would see it right off the bat. Or maybe if I remember kind of a teaching on emptiness. Sorry, I'm gonna have to open the door for Yuki. that this person mm, is more like a blank screen, like at a movie theater. That the quality, the feeling, how they look to you, kind of like the image coming from the projector, your mind being that projector, that film that's being projected on the screen on them is something that's been filmed, something from your past. And this is why someone, maybe a friend or family that first came in, might not see it. Definitely the stranger who just came in doesn't see it because from their mind, they have different film playing about this person, about this blank screen. And just wrap up this visualization with a ball of golden light and just let it float off. And, and slowly coming out of your meditation, just round your back, give it a nice stretch, move any part of your body that might need it. Or, yeah, it's a good reminder that just sitting nice and tall does require a lot of our body muscles to move. And that's kind of why all these yoga poses were developed to actually allow the yogi to sit in meditation longer. All right. So yeah, I hope that meditation on, someone that you do are attracted to, they say, um, can be considered an emptiness meditation. And that for homework, I'll repeat at the end, I was going to ask you to think of, to try that with someone you dislike, maybe not like. Because, yeah, definitely maybe not so enjoyable, but maybe more useful. Because, yeah, that can help. Um, that can definitely help with what can cause us a lot of problems, that we attribute a certain quality or a certain characteristic to somebody. So yeah, I'll definitely challenge you to try that as a, you know, but this one, they said the meditation on an attractive object is actually usually a hard one because we actually can really feel, you know, that it really is coming from them, that the seeds for seeing things as outside of us, as existing outside, is actually really strong. And that is what they call the source of suffering. That is ignorance. Like we can say that and you can go, yeah, okay, that makes sense. But as soon as you say that, you can go look at something out in front of you, uh, device you're watching this on or listening to this on, and you're like, no, 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 that's outside of me. It's not coming from me, you know? Um, so yeah, it is, that is what we're supposed to um, see exactly how it works when we have that direct perception of emptiness. So as my friend was asking me the other day, he's like, why are you going to this retreat, for 2 days? And, we were doing like 7.5 hours of meditating. I was like, because, you know, until you actually get to that point where you really experience it, it's only just like a concept in your mind that doesn't seem to stick, you know. So uh, I do feel, you know, along this path, it's kind of sticking a little bit more. I'll have some wonderful experiences in the day. There's usually always a few good ones that I kind of now go, okay, I'm riding a good result, a good karma. And again, similarly, when it's not so good, um, when I catch it, it makes it feel less intense. So I'll give you two quick examples. I mean, I think I kind of shared the story a little bit, and it was just about seeing my ex-girlfriend. And, if I kind of just say it's an ex-girlfriend, I think for a lot of people, they'll kind of go, oh, yeah, that um, can be a lot of problems. And they might actually point the finger at me like, you're the problem. You saw your ex-girlfriend. But I thought I wanted to give a little context to make it, to, you know, that the reason, I am teaching yoga now really was because of her. Um, that I had met her, and in my mind at that time, I was like, "Yeah, this is the person I think I'm going to spend the rest of my life with." It was kind of crazy to me because only a year earlier, uh, another ex-girlfriend had asked me to go. She's like, "I want to spend the rest of my life with you." And I was like, "I'm not ready." Like I was 20, so it was 1990. I was 97, so I was 23. I just moved out, and I just was like, no, I can I just my head was like, no, I can stay together and we can just date, but I just am not ready to make that lifelong commitment. And then here a year later, like within like a short time of meeting her, I was like, oh, I just had this feeling. And obviously, I didn't say anything because I would scare anybody. So I didn't. And then she went off to Taiwan for the summer to work and got a job and said that she's going to stay. I think a month or two later, I was working at the hotel. This is where we had met. And I had realized at that time I didn't really want to continue moving up the hotel ladder. I wanted to do something on my own. Um, and since the project my aunt had thought she might fund, she wasn't going to fund anymore, opening up more hostels at that time in Vancouver. Um, I was like, okay, well, I just head to Taiwan, and I told her, I said I would teach English. I'd do whatever, you know. And unfortunately, she said no. She didn't think it was a good idea. Um, that, yeah, she said no. And though every part of me wanted to go, even my best friend said, if you love her, just go. Don't, you know, you just wait it out, I guess, or, I just, from my experience, that little part of my head was like, no, if somebody says no, relationships are hard enough. If one doesn't want to really be in it, it's not going to work. And so I agreed. I didn't go, but my body and just was not happy. And my friends could see it. My roommate could see it. And I guess they could also see that yoga seemed to help. After I practiced, I'd feel better, you know. And it was because of that, my roommate in a newspaper, clipped out the little clipping, there's a yoga teacher training coming up and gave it to me. And I was like, oh, just to be polite, I'm like, okay, I'll consider it. And I just taped it to the wall and didn't look at it. But, 2 weeks later, I looked at it and I'm like, well, it does seem to help me feel better. And so that's when I went into the course, missed the first class, met Georgina, who was a classmate. And the great karma is by the end of the course, we got along really well. And when she said, oh, let's start a yoga studio, um, I was more than eager to, even though we just graduated and no experience and yeah, no money too. So we just rented a space. And so that was started Open Door Yoga in 1999, September. And yeah, I didn't get to talk with her anymore. Um, and met my wife, I think in 2001. Um, and at that point when I knew I wanted to have a family. And, we had two wonderful children. And then um, 4 years ago, suddenly I had this dream about her and her father and looked her up and found her on LinkedIn and kind of just connected on email and caught up with each other. Um, a week later, my wife was like, "Why are you suddenly so happy?" And like, I told her, and she said, "No, just for my sake, don't contact her anymore." And I had felt the same feelings for her, at that time. So I'm like, okay, okay, yeah, I won't. And I didn't. Um, but then I went off into retreat later that summer. And one thing about being in meditation, which I shared with you before, it's kind of like it's not easy because every feeling is just like, and thought just magnifies, as my teacher says. It just, you don't have, anything else to distract you. And so whatever you feel and think, it just kind of expands. And yeah, during that retreat, I realized there's a lot of things I still needed to find out and ask. Came back from my retreat and told my wife, I said, look, it's been 6 months. I kind of tried to respect what you wanted, but I think I still need to clear things up. She said, go ahead. I did. I wrote a bit more. And, but somewhere at the end of that, um, uh, my wife kind of got jealous again and said, you, I don't think this is going to work for me. And luckily, ex-girlfriend was really sensitive to my wife and said, okay, um, yeah, we won't stay in contact. Um, so that's how it was the past 4 years, except for a birthday greeting. Um, but just in October, she reached out as her mom passed away, who was like her best friend. And at that time, I was actually on my trip with my wife. We were in Beijing. I literally remember. And I turned to my wife and I remember I got the email. I was really excited because I wasn't expecting an email from her. And I was going to tell my wife, but then I remembered her reaction and how she said she didn't want to hear anything more about her. So I was like, okay, I don't need to, though she's my best friend, I don't need to share everything. I don't want to make her upset. So I didn't say anything. And I felt that was to help her. I didn't even know whether my ex-girlfriend would write back after I wrote, my condolences, but she did. And I think I just shared what I thought will help when someone's grieving. And then we came back from the trip, and just by chance, ex-girlfriend was coming back into town and said, would you like to get together, go for a walk? And I said sure. But leading up to that day, suddenly, we started texting, and I think my wife again picked up on something. Picked up, like, she's like, "Are you going on a date?" Like at the end of that day, and that was my chance then to tell the truth, because I mean, if I lied, that would be definitely a misdeed. I'm like, yeah, actually, and I told her pretty much what happened, that my ex-girlfriend, her mother died, and that we'd been in communication for about a week or two, and she was coming into town, that we were just going to go for a walk. But it triggered off, like, you know, uh, my wife. And I guess you can imagine, for her to hear, um, in her mind, that it was almost like I was sneaking around, not telling her, just made her super upset. Um, and that is an understatement. But yeah, I kind of just share this as I think, a perfect example of the emptiness of a situation. That on one hand, my intention was, oh, to not hurt my wife, to help someone else. And there's nothing in the email conversations that I would be embarrassed to share with her. But the same incident, which I think helped her, my ex-girlfriend, she told me it was really comforting to hear. Seen from my wife's viewpoint, was not okay, and was an example of how I was selfish and um, disrespectful to her. And yeah, just I could go on and on. And uh, yeah, and as my wife was upset and kind of talking to me, was kind of wanting me to admit that I did something wrong. And I really didn't feel I did, right? Which made things worse, made her feel even more upset, until I finally, like, okay, okay, I can't keep replying the same way. And I listened, I understood her feelings. And so, yeah, luckily now we're at a place where she understands and I understand, that I probably should have told her when I first got the email. But yeah, how one situation uh, can bring up completely, one communication can bring up completely different view, you know, uh, ways of seeing that situation. So yeah, definitely a good example of that, um, which maybe I'll share more about later. But that is definitely the example that sticks out. That I was sharing this meditation and maybe the story, not as another example that life is suffering. I've shared a lot about that, but to share, to as a kind of reminder that, I will still admit that I don't feel I did do a misdeed. I didn't, some can say, did I lie? Well, I didn't lie because I didn't say I didn't do something. And at the point when she asked me, I did tell the truth. But it is, a good, um, reminder that, yeah, the results can come from your past karma that you don't know. I definitely wouldn't have expected, and that you need to continue to plant good karma. Um, the same way a farmer has to continue to plant seeds every year to get a crop. That's, your good deeds you do once might not be enough. Um, yeah, that there is one Buddhist practice, that I say I definitely do, and it's called the Four Infinite Thoughts. It's under that, um, Asian Classic Institute, like daily practices. I think it's one of them. And it is four infinite thoughts. I'll just kind of say quickly would be giving all sentient beings love, whatever they truly want, um, giving compassion, which actually means taking away their suffering, um, being doing good all the time, which is kind of, yeah, doing that on a daily basis, and treating everyone with equanimity, which they mean um, treating everyone as you would your beloved. So I think just today, I'll just kind of share a little bit about that first one, the four infinite of giving love. And I would say one thing I am so grateful for is that with my relationship with my wife, 20 years, that um, um, I didn't meet her with the same feeling I had for my ex-girlfriend. But I've been so blessed that I've over time have felt more and more of the feeling of like a deeper love. I feel because I kind of learned this about, that if you wanted this feeling of feeling loved, you need to give the same. And so I remember, just being told this, and the practice was, with your partner to just consider what they would like, um, consider what makes them happy, and do that. And so um, I felt I've done it. You know, there's certain habits that definitely trigger my wife. Um, Here's a funny one that, that I will stand up to go pee. And unfortunately, my pee splashes out onto it hits the water. I aim well. It splashes out. And so after many years of standing, I kind of said, okay, fine, I will sit down. And so I sit down all the time at night. And I guess her request now is that I sit down all the time during the day. So unless we get a urinal. So yeah, there are definitely um, this practice of the four infinite thoughts. I would say I have applied with her, you know, throughout the years and have seen kind of like, when I would sometimes get yelled at, that I would say, especially after I did yoga or I'm not so tired, that it would bounce off me. It's almost like there would be certain times I'd get yelled at that it didn't affect me. I wouldn't feel bad. Whereas other times, um, sometimes, usually when I'm not expecting it, when I'm tired, it would just kind of like hit right down deep, and then sometimes cause that reaction for me to react back and to yell back, and in the past start a fight. So um, this is where the message from the Buddha would be to consider everyone around you, they say, as like a merit field. So kind of think of a field of, that a farmer plants, but that everyone that you interact with is an opportunity for you to plant seeds. And hopefully you're not going to be planting not so good seeds, but planting good ones. Um, that's, you know, higher practice and not always an easy one, especially the ones who triggered you, is to consider some of them as Buddhas. That Buddhas have that ability to emanate and be anything, something solid or a person, and that if you see that, if you were to see a Buddha, an enlightened being, probably your actions and your speech maybe your thoughts would be different, right? You're seeing them as someone who's reached the end, who's has no mental afflictions, has reached the end of the path. Like I know for myself, definitely it would be this respect and reverence and wanting to learn. And so Buddhas also are teaching us sometimes not as they are, but to teach us, as I mentioned earlier this week, the person who got me really mad. I mean, turn so you can kind of see that it was an owner of a dog, of a pit bull, um, that whose pit bull actually got so angry that it ripped its collar from her hand and chased down Yuki
Oh,
more than once. Like kind of latched on. Yuki ran off, latched on again, and just kind of attacked her and bit her. And maybe she would not be alive right now, except for the kindness of a passerby who knew how to, when finally this pit bull latched on, he came and grabbed its neck and kind of lifted it off, and then they leashed it back up. But I brought Yuki home, and I thought she was okay. I didn't see any puncture wounds. But by the time my wife came back half an hour later, there was blood on the blanket. Took it to the vet, who was, I guess, their special cameras found four more bites. And so you can't really see, but there's four like bald patches where there's stitches. And yeah. Um, but the initial reaction I obviously had, obvious, was fear. And then when this owner hooked off back the pit bull, you could just understand. I've never seen something so crazy and like so aggressive that. And then to see Yuki suddenly whimpering and crying, like uh, I, I think you would understand why I was so upset and pissed. And yet I was right in front of her, and I so glad that I just kind of didn't give her like my anger that I was like feeling swelling up. Yeah. So, and as I reflected on it, I was like, I saw her later on, to saw this lady later on, and she was feeling really sorry. It wasn't her fault, really. Like, I mean, her pit bull ripped off the leash. Um, but I kind of just looked at this example and I'm like, okay, if everyone's a merit field, she definitely is. It wasn't her fault. But even the dog, I was thinking, I was like, she said the dog sometimes gets reactive with some dogs. And that's what I saw. It's kind of like the dog wasn't consciously trying to attack or kill Yuki. It just like something, it was a rescue dog, and it was just something that triggered it to get so angry that it couldn't control itself, and it just did what it did. Um, so um, it was nice for me to kind of get to the place where I wasn't so upset, because I think obviously it'd be normal too. Um, and then yeah, I'd say the karma from these past few days is I haven't felt worried about her. I came back, and the next day Yuki was all like licking me, even though she's got that cone. But I've seen other people's karma. It's like they're not even, obviously Susan was really worried and took time off, but there are other people who had dogs and they were really upset. Someone came by and dropped off a toy and they want to visit her, and they were sobbing in front of her. And yeah, uh, I think it just shows me again how we can all get uh, different karma from the same event. So, I mean, I don't feel like I'm not being sensitive by not crying at what happened to Yuki, but I guess I don't, I just don't have the karma of worrying. I just believe that she's going to um, heal from this, and to see that she's still kissing people and still wanting to run up to people. Funny enough, yesterday we thought, oh, she's probably maybe not going to be barking at other dogs. There she was on her little walk, walking slowly with her stitches, still going up to actually her friend and going like, oh. We were like, gosh, we were thinking if anything, Yuki should understand her karma was from being angry at another dog, but um, that doesn't seem to have sunk into her. So she still has her little feisty side. So I kind of wanted to move on to what this class was also sharing. And it's this term that you're going to hear maybe more and more. It's called the gakcha, CGAK dash JA, gakcha. And this is what basically I've been talking about this whole class about the, the thing outside of us that we think is self-existent. So if you're looking at the screen, your device, you think it's out there. You see Yuki, you think she's out there. She's not coming from your projections. Um, I see you and you might see me the same way. You just open the door. So it is the thing that there's quite a few little definitions for it. Uh, One you'll hear a lot is it's the object we deny. But basically, if we say that everything's empty, everything has a blank screen, it is saying that's the thing that doesn't really exist. It is the thing, when you talk about emptiness, that is empty of. And they say in Buddhism, it's important to understand that because, like, for example, if I was to tell you this cup doesn't exist, you got to know what a cup is before you could say it doesn't exist. You know, um, so this is what um, this is the thing they say that causes us to suffer. You know, the thing that we like or we don't like can cause us suffering. Um, so the gokcha are the things I just described, but I had also told you that Buddha kind of taught slightly different things to different people. And so sometimes there's some things that he says that might seem to contradict each other because he was trying to teach to different peoples of different capacities. So in the one that we're in, the highest school, also the Prasangika school, they do say nothing exists out there. Everything is from our mind, right? But on a lower school, the Svantantrika, Svantrika, Trika, says that they were trying to um, explain to some people who might just still have a really hard time imagining that, like, this solid thing in front of me is really doesn't exist. It really is really a projection. Like, they might not be able to digest that idea. So, according to Savantrika, this school, they're saying that for something to exist, two things have to happen. And one is that the thing you're looking at, just say this cup, has to appear to us a little bit like a cup. Um, yeah. And that there needs to be someone to perceive it. Right? So, okay, the first point again, that it has to appear a little bit like a cup. They're saying if um, you looked at this and it didn't even appear like a cup, you could look at everything and it could be a cup. And that second point about you need someone to perceive it for it to exist is that saying is like if a tree falls in the forest, the common phrase is, common question is, did it fall if nobody heard it? According to us, most of us, we will say yes, even if nobody heard a tree fall in Stanley Park, but a tree could fall. But according to Sotantica, if no one perceived it, it actually didn't exist. So it requires someone to perceive it, it requires something to appear that way for it to exist. Um, so this is what they wanted. Might seem like a little point, but again, in Tibetan Buddhism, they're saying if you understand the details, you'll understand the important point. And the important point is that the things don't really exist. So they have one last story to help explain uh, where you might be on your path. So this story is about a magician, and supposedly this happens in India, and a magician in front of a group of people has a stick, a piece of wood, and he casts a spell on it. And after he casts the spell, that stick appears to everyone there and to himself, appears like a horse. But someone who comes in a little later after the spell has been cast, isn't affected by the spell. He missed it. So what he sees when he looks at what everyone's looking is not a horse, but a stick. So in this little story, I mean, the different characters are there's the audience, which um, sees the horse after the spell and believes it's a horse. There's the magician who actually um, sees a horse. After he casts a spell, it affects him too, but doesn't believe it's a horse, knows it was a stick, right? And then there's the latecomer who, when it looks, doesn't see a horse, still sees a stick, and doesn't believe it was a horse. So these three parties in this story are supposed to represent different people on the path. And so most of us are like the audience, which sees something which is not really there, but believes it, you know. Um, you know, the magician is someone who has seen emptiness, has had that direct experience of emptiness, but isn't a Buddha yet. But after they see emptiness, they still will see things as self existent. They will still, um, when they look at things, it'll look like it's coming from outside of them. And this is where, the seeds in us to see things as self-existent supposedly so strong that it takes up to 7 lifetimes to burn off that karma. But that if you do Tantra, the secret practice, you can, within one lifetime, reach Buddhahood. So that's the magician. And then the latecomer, the person who came in, doesn't see the horse and doesn't believe it's a horse. Um, they say is not really a Buddha yet, but it's someone who uh, is actually having the direct perception of emptiness. And that is what happens that when you have that direct perception of emptiness, you actually don't see the illusion. You actually see the way things are. Yeah. So I'm hoping in all this, some of it can apply to whatever you're going through. Usually, I mean, these teachings are supposed to help us when we're suffering. um, from something to remind us again that one, we help create it, so not to blame anyone else, but two, to know we're purifying it to get rid of that bad karma, so that it can help. And that kind of one little extra bit that can help even more is um, that if you believe when you're not feeling good, um, experiencing not so good karma, that you're taking on this suffering for all beings, that it actually um, becomes like you're planting a good seed, like you're doing something for everybody. So from having whatever you're not feeling good, like just say I was not liking that my wife was so upset. Like there was this point where she was so upset at night. I remember we were in the kitchen at one point and she was holding on to a knife. I actually had this fear that she actually would stab me. I told her the next day. And funny enough, she said, I had that thought. So, anyway, that when you're suffering, feel like you're taking it on for all beings, even something as small as a headache, which, funny enough, they say a headache is might seem like something minor, but it's a way to burn off a bad seed. That if you have a headache, it's better because then that seed won't grow into something worse. Um, but yeah, if you do have any other good karma that's happening for you, um, that you can also use that and to help you towards your end path by thinking of sharing that with all beings. You know, this morning I was swimming and I was like, oh, it was so nice to move in the pool. And yeah, I was thinking of sharing that joy and that freedom and, with everyone else. So, as I mentioned, the homework I'm trying to offer, um, if you can do it every day, or at least maybe once before next Saturday, is just to think of something that someone that you don't particularly appreciate, enjoy being around, thinking about, that triggers you, upsets you. It could be more than one, but maybe think of one person and meditate on whether this is really true, whether they really are the gakcha, that thing outside of you that exists on its own, that everyone will agree is like that. Or maybe and hopefully that you'll get to the point where you can see that maybe they're not, that they do come from you. All right. So we'll leave it at that and just do the closing prayer, the offering, the uh, actually, yep, it's the dedication of the goodness of the deed. Um, Here it is. And we'll do that one in Sanskrit too. Gewa de Gewo kun. Okay. So
Yep.
we just do it once. Yeah. Gewa de Gewo kun. Sunam yeshe zopso shing. Sunam yeshe lejong wei. Dampa kuni stopar stok. And can stay seated, Alice, but I'll do 3 prostrations. Thank you so much, Alice, for coming, or anyone else watching, listening. And yeah, we're on to class 8 next week. If you had any questions, Alice, sorry, this is a good time if you
No,
know.
It was pretty.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for being here.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, if you can, we'll see you next Saturday.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank
Healing
you.
energy to your knee.
Bye.
Bye.